Hi, I'm Daniel Andrews, owner and creator of Andrewsfootball.com. Now, before I get into my videos, certain things, very few things, are more important than football, but being an American and showing your pride is. Tomorrow is 4th of July, so have a very happy but safe. I'm not taking a shot at JPP. I'm not taking a shot, I'm not making fun of him, but be safe, but have a lot of fun and show your pride. It's an honor to be an American, so like I said, few things take precedence over football. I think the 4th of July is one of them. Now, if you're new to my channel, there's this little button right down here. Go ahead and hit that. Scientifically proven to make all your wildest dreams come true. And here's how my videos work. I break down what I like. I break down what I don't like. But stick around to the end where I break down the Vegas over-under. And if you should, put action down on the Atlanta Falcons. So let's just jump right in. What do I like about the Atlanta Falcons? I like the Hall of Fame talent. All right, Matt Ryan and Julio Jones are both going to walk into Canton someday. I think Julio Jones will be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Matt Ryan may take a little more time to get in, but do not be fooled. He is going to end up in Canton someday. I remember when he came out of college, he came out of Boston College, Carl Peterson, the Chiefs general manager, president, he had like another title, I'm drawing a blank now, but Lamar Hunt at this point in time just gave all control and power, not just the player personnel, but everything in the Chiefs organization to Carl Peterson. And he made, most of the time you're kind of vague in draft selection, but he made his feelings known. He was just in love with Matt Ryan. Not everybody was, but he was, and it turns out to be was correct because he's going to walk into Canton someday. His biggest flaw is being in the same division as Drew Brees, and as much as I think Matt Ryan's a Hall of Fame quarterback, he's not as good as Drew Brees. That's like saying, hey, you're not as good as Tom Brady, or hey, you're not as good as Peyton Manning, or hey, didn't throw as many touchdowns as Patrick Mahomes. That's not a bad thing, but keep in mind he is going to be in Canton someday. So, and then, with Julio Jones, I think he's the number one receiver in football right now. I mean, this guy is strong. This guy is tall. This guy is fast. The thing I like about Julio Jones, it doesn't matter what you're trying to do. It's 3rd and 7. You need somebody to run that slant route, take that hit from the middle linebacker. Julio Jones can do that. You need somebody to run that 9 route, go downfield, get the deep ball. He can do that. Body control, deep speed, toughness, can run across the middle. Now, there are some fantasy football nerds that are like, he only had 8 touchdowns. He's not as good as Antonio. No, he's the number one receiver in football. Forget the fantasy stuff. I know he had 8 touchdowns. It wasn't as many as Antonio Brown's 15. So some people are going to try to tell me that he's not the better receiver. Somebody else is. No, Julio Jones is the number one receiver in football. Forget the fantasy stuff. Which brings me to the second thing I like is that if you're looking at the top 3 receivers on the same team, you got Julio Jones, who I think is the best receiver in football, but you got Mohamed Sanu and you got Calvin Ridley. And Ridley, by the way, it reminds me a lot of Amari Cooper, who I think they're very similar players. Both of them came out of Alabama. And I think there's going to be a day where Calvin Ridley will become, you know what? It's actually Stephen Ridley. I am so sorry. I'm sitting here and I'm all excited. It's Calvin Ridley, his brother Stephen Ridley. I'm sorry, but anyway, he's going to be a number one receiver someday. I mean, he's got all the talent in the world, and on this team, he's actually, depending on how you look at it, I think he's the number 3 guy. But you could flip flop him and Sanu. But basically on this team, Sanu, by the way, I just love this guy. This guy is a bona fide number 2 guy, and he does all the little things correct. Number 1, every single player who's ever played with him has had nothing but great things to say about him. He blocks, he's physical, he's tough. He doesn't need to be the main guy. But keep in mind, there's several teams in the NFL where he would be the best receiver on the team. Is he a number 1? No, absolutely not. But I'd say about somewhere between 5 and 7 teams in the NFL, Mohamed Sanu would be the best receiver on the team. So he's your number 2 guy, bona fide number 2. But then you have Calvin Ridley, who's going to be a number 1 someday. It may not be with the Falcons, but someday he's going to be a number 1. So I really love the wide receiver core of the Atlanta Falcons. Number 3, thing I like about the Falcons is you got Dirk Cutter coming back. Now, he was the offensive coordinator between 2012 and 2014. Then, if you don't know the story, he left to take the offensive coordinator job in Tampa Bay with Lovie Smith. He wanted to be a head coach. He thought that'd be a great opportunity. Helped groomed Jameis Winston. However, when Tampa found out that he was going to leave to take a head coaching job, they fired Lovie Smith, promoted him, and he has been the head coach of Tampa Bay for the last 3 years. So not only is he an excellent offensive mind, that's undebatable. For the last 4 years, he's been coaching against you and in the NFC South. So he's very familiar with the division and you, and he's also familiar with the personnel. As far as offensive coordinators go, you literally could not find anybody better. This is the number one person you could hire to run your offense. He already knows the personnel, he knows the organization, he already knows the players, and he's also been coaching against you for the last 4 years, last 3 as a head coach. So I love the offensive hire. And the final thing I really, really love about the Atlanta Falcons is that from top to bottom, they're a world-class organization. Now, Scott Pioli left the Falcons. Now, some Chiefs fans are going to say, "What? That guy was a jerk." No, you know what? He didn't pan out as the general manager of the Chiefs, and I could talk about that because I think he had a good plan in play. It just didn't work, and I think he wanted to run the organization like the Patriots were run, with a lot of misinformation, closed off to the press, and it didn't really work here. But keep in mind, did he know his football? Absolutely. Was he responsible for multiple Super Bowl victories in New England? Absolutely. Was he a great addition and hire for the Atlanta Falcons? Absolutely. And plus, his departure does not hurt the Falcons for 2019. It's just going to hurt them in 2020 because he was there for the draft process. And I'm assuming he had tons of input. If I'm correct, they were kind of his title was something different. Basically, they all worked. Basically, a lot of front office staff plus a lot of coaches worked in New England, so they kind of did different roles. But basically, he was essentially like the number 2 guy behind Thomas Dimitroff, which both of them worked together in New England, lifelong friends. So basically, just kind of to recap what I like about the Falcons, number one, Hall of Fame talent. You have a Hall of Fame quarterback, which in this quarterback-driven league, so you have a Hall of Fame quarterback. You have the best receiver in football, plus you have the top 1, 2, 3 receiver core in football. Is there another one? If you want to argue with me, maybe Cleveland, because I'm doing Cleveland after the holidays. So if you want to argue, you can, but give me Atlanta over Cleveland. I'll talk about that later. Dirk Cutter coming back. I mean, this guy's an excellent offensive mind. Plus, he knows the division, former head coach. So I love that. And you also, from top to bottom, you have a world-class organization. The Atlanta Falcons, I don't give a lot of credit to a lot of different organizations for being well run, but the Atlanta Falcons, I think, are a class act from top to bottom. I'm not even an Atlanta Falcons fan, but I have nothing but good things to say about the organization. Arthur Blank, first-rate owner. The stadium, I've never been there. The only stadium I've ever been to is Arrowhead, but from what I've been told, it's world-class. Everything about the Atlanta Falcons from top to bottom, owner, GM, coaching staff, really, really top to bottom, excellent. So overall, they have a very, very good front office, and there's a lot of things I like about the team. Let's talk about what I don't like. First thing I don't like is I didn't like the draft. Now it's funny because I just gushed about how much I like the front office. See how much I was talking about Dimitroff and how much I was talking about Scott Pioli, and then I don't like their draft, but I didn't because I understand he went back to Boston College. St. Matt Ryan went to Boston College, and he took Lindstrom at 14. There was a lot of drafts where he wasn't even in the first round. I thought he was a good pick late first. 14 I thought was way too high. But the thing I really didn't like is they traded back into the first round for McGrary, and one of the first things I heard him say was that I didn't even think I'd go in the first round. That's not a good sign when you're chosen in first round. You're like, I didn't think I'd come here. I didn't think anybody would pick me. That's not good. And I saw more mock drafts of him being in the second round. Could they have had him at 14 in the second round? Realistically, you could, but here's the thing. There's three things I don't like about the draft. Number one, I really thought you reached for both of these players. Both these players, almost every mock draft had them going much lower. Second thing is that by reaching, you're identifying the offensive line as the only flaw in this team. This team had other weaknesses, all right? This team lost some players in free agency. This team, I'll talk about this here in a little bit, but the team doesn't have that good of a defense. So the only flaw in this team's the offensive line. That's the only thing that's wrong with it. And the third thing is that you're a passing team, and you drafted two guys known more for their run blocking. I was very adamant up into the draft. I loved Greg Little. You could have got Greg Little. You could have got Greg Little in the second round at 14. Well, actually, I'll have to go back. I'll double check that here. I could be wrong here. Was he available? Dalton Risner. You could add Dalton Risner too. That's another one. No, actually you couldn't because he went 32nd. Okay, my mistake. But bottom line, there are several players that you could drafted. But normally tackle's considered a higher priority. They get paid more than guard. Why don't you take Andre Dillard at 14? If you're going to take a guard and a tackle, get the best tackle in the draft. Get Andre Dillard. That would have made a lot more sense. Juwan Taylor was available in the first round. If you're going to trade up in the first round, get a player from first round, great. Get Juwan Taylor. I didn't like the picks because this team, you're drafting two guys that are known more run blocking, not pass protection. You're playing in a NFC South, which is more known for their defenses having speed. You're playing against the Saints. That's the team that you're trying to get to. Their defense is based more on speed than size, and you drafted big physical players. Keep in mind, if they're planning on running the ball more, becoming more physical up front, under Dirk Cutter, that's not what he's known for. But if they are, maybe these will work out. Keep in mind, I'm not a scout. These guys I already talked about how much I like the Falcons front office. They know more than I do. But things that I don't like, I didn't like the draft because you traded up, you used all your second and third round picks. You know each, but you identified offensive line is your only problem. Second thing I don't like is that I spoke about holes. Well, Dan Quinn, who's the head coach, they got rid of their defensive coordinator. He's going to take over as acting defensive coordinator. That may or may not work. It's more commonly done on the offensive side than the defensive side, but let's say it works. But you're 25th in points allowed. All right, and you already traded your second and third pick to trade up in the first to get an offensive line after you already chose an offensive line. So you didn't get any help in the draft. You didn't get help in the free agency. Now keep in mind there's some young talent on this defense, but you finished 25th and you didn't add to it. That to me is kind of a red flag. And keep in mind you're trying to catch Drew Brees and the Saints, and you didn't upgrade the defense. You went all in on a couple of offensive linemen, but you didn't do anything to the defense, which finished 25th. By the way, the offense finished 10th last year. I might have gone in a different direction because basically you're going all in. You fired all the coaches except for the head coach. That indicates to me that you want to win the Super Bowl this year. The Super Bowl's in Atlanta. So you went all in. You fired their assistant coaches. And then bottom line, you identified their one weakness on the team is offensive line. Then you drafted two players that are better suited for a running team. Then you didn't upgrade the defense despite having a Hall of Fame quarterback, I think best receiver in football, and the top three receiving core, or not top three together receiving trio. So that's kind of my recap here. I was not fond of the draft. I didn't like that you didn't get any defensive help, and that I was also kind of like, if you're going all in, which this kind of move indicated that you're ready to win now, you want to win a Super Bowl this year. Why not help out the defense? That was your weakness, but anyway. So I told you to stick around to the end. The advanced class, the money-making class, the over-under class. All right, here's how this works. The Vegas over-under is 8.5, and this is really, really, really hard, okay? You know what? It's summertime. It's like 90, 95. I don't care. I'm drinking coffee. All right. 8.5 is negative 130, which means that you have to bet $130 to win 100. The under means that is plus 110, which means that a $100 wager will win you 110. This means that action's being put on the over, which makes a lot of sense because this team is talented enough to win 9 games, maybe 10. When I look at this team, here's the problem. You have enough talent to win 9 games. Let's say 8.5, so I'm going to say 9. But the schedule's brutal. The schedule is brutal because, okay, I'm going to go 2 different directions here. Let's talk about the over and then let's talk about the under. If you're doing the over, you want to drop down and say you're going to go 3-3 in this division. All right, you're probably the second best team in the division. You're not as good as the Saints, but you're better than both Tampa Bay and Carolina, right? All right. Realistically, you're probably closer to going 4-2, but let's just say 3-3. That means you got to come up with 6 wins. Okay, here's your home games: Philly, playoff team; Tennessee, 9-7; Rams, Super Bowl, of course; Seattle, playoff team; Jacksonville, not a playoff team, but much improved. Okay, those are your home games. How many are you winning there? I'm seeing Tennessee and Jacksonville. Okay, let's say Philly. Okay, let's say Philly, which I don't see. So you got 3. So now you only got 3. All right. So let's look at your away games. Minnesota, that's a tough one. It's first game of the season at Minnesota. That's going to be tough. Indianapolis and Houston, 2 playoff teams. Arizona and San Francisco. Probably win both of those. That Minnesota, that week 1, is that the one? Is that it? Because that's 9, and that's if you're including Philly, which I think is better than you guys. So let's say you want to look at the under. Then go 4. All right? Then go 4, and then you got to get 8. So out of the 4, Tennessee, maybe. Jacksonville at home. Okay. Arizona and San Francisco. Out of those 2 scenarios, I actually like the under. And here's the thing I want you to look at. When you look at the schedule, look at it early, all right? At the Vikings, home against Philly, at Indianapolis, home against the Titans, at Houston. You could realistically going into the game against Arizona, you're going to win that one, all right? Going into that game, you could be 1-4. Best case scenario, you're probably 2-3, all right? So let's say you win that one, you get to 3-3. You got back-to-back home games with the Rams and Seahawks. I mean, I think best case scenario going into the bye, you're 4-4. Realistically, you could be 2-6. I wouldn't be surprised if they're 2-6 or 1-7 and they decide to make a change right then and there. The good news about their schedule is after the bye, they have the Saints on the road. At Panthers, home against the Bucks, home against the Saints. But here's what I like. This December, home against the Panthers, home against the Jags, at 49ers, at Bucks. Basically, they could end December 4-0. So basically, if you can get through the tough front part of the schedule, you have an easier back part of the schedule. The thing is, though, I'd be really, really, really hard pressed going into the bye. I'd be really hard pressed for them to have more than 3 wins, and the bye's week 9, so it's halfway through the season. It's a good time for a bye. So talent wise, I would take the over all day. Schedule wise, I have under. Now I would avoid putting action on this team because it's hard. Okay, you're betting against a team with a Hall of Fame quarterback, and that's very talented. For under, but if I was going to put action on this team, I would put it on the under. Plain and simple. But if you're a Falcons fan, you should be excited because this is a very talented team. There's a lot of positives, but your schedule's brutal. So if you get through a tough open and you get through in good shape, that December you could be 4-0. So Hey, listen, if you're a subscriber to Andrews Football, you already know you're one of the greatest people on planet Earth. All your wildest dreams are going to come true. But if you're new to my channel, there's this little button right down here. I got it blown up. By the way, there's some awesome playlists here. See this little button? Bam! Hit that button. Become one of the greatest people on planet Earth. Have fun on the 4th of July. But Friday, I'm going to break down the Cleveland Browns. So have a happy and safe 4th of July, and I'll see you Friday.